Ladies and gentlemen, our speaker today is a man of great accomplishment who has, over the years, operated in cities just like Detroit. Our speaker has been able to achieve programmatic success because of the force of his will, the certainty and clarity of his vision, and the deliberateness of his actions. Our speaker knows our particular community well. He was born and raised by his loving mother and grandparents in a city just like ours. He lived the life that so many of our children now live and overcame all of those hardships for today to lead a national movement designed to save through education and love and caring poor children across this nation. Our speaker has labored long and hard in the vineyards of urban America and has lifted up countless poor children and their families. He has taught school and managed multi-million-dollar education enterprises. He has written 2 books and still today teaches martial arts to young people in an effort to help these young people find some inner peace by developing physical and mental strength. He has created the Harlem Children's Zone and spends many days advising political leaders, including our own beloved President, Barack Obama. He teaches these political leaders, we hope, on how to get the most out of the educational dollars spent in poor urban communities across this nation, and he has done that work tirelessly and well. I could go on and on and on about our speaker, but you came to hear him and not me. So please, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Geoffrey Canada.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for that warm introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. I am absolutely thrilled to be here. It's been quite 18 months for me and the organization. We've done 60 Minutes twice and made the wonderful decision that I would go on a Colbert Report. I don't know if I'll do that again. That was very interesting. And so we recently were on Black in America with Soledad O'Brien, and recently I was at the White House with the president and haven't been to the White House in a few years. Can I say that? I don't know why, but 8 years, I wasn't invited there. I don't know. I don't know what that, I don't know. Anyhow, I changed my shirt and I got an invitation, so I straightened that out. So 60 Minutes. So 60 Minutes is doing another, I shouldn't probably be saying this, but they're doing an update piece on us. And the first piece I did, we were really very excited about the piece. But can I just say a word about 60 Minutes? Because if you were like, see, I'm older than most of you here, but I grew up watching 60 Minutes. Because I grew up in the 60s and 70s, these were the time of turmoil. Civil rights was going on. There was marching in the streets. The cities were burning. And we knew there was good and evil. And you turned on 60 Minutes to see the good guys bust the evildoers. You remember that word. Any case, and I watched it, and I used to always wonder why anyone would ever go on 60 Minutes. It had the same format every week, right? Some scoundrel would be polluting the water, right? And denying everything. And he'd come on 60 Minutes and he would just lie. And you would be sitting there yelling, I know you're lying. And then David Wallace would like whip out the picture of him pouring the sludge, right? And they would be so busted. And I kept saying, what idiot would go on 60 Minutes? And then they called me. And I said, I don't know about this. See those questions you're going to ask? But I thought 60 Minutes was it. I thought if you had a message for America, right, and you wanted to get it out, and you always worry about messaging. How do you get your message out? You wanted to go on 60 Minutes, right? 25 million viewers, hard news format, that was it. I was wrong. You know whose show you need to do if you want to reach America? Oprah. Oprah. I was sleeping Oprah, right? I mean, I know Oprah. I mean, I don't know no Oprah, but I know about Oprah, but I didn't really know, right? So this is the deal. I'm doing 60 Minutes. I'm going to the White House. I say to my wife, children, look, guys, I'm going 60 Minutes. You want to come? No, thank you, no. No. So anyway, I'm going. You want to go? No, no, thank you, Dad. That's nice, no. So I come in, and as usual, I said, oh, I'm going to Chicago next week. I'm doing Oprah. Oprah? Oprah, you're going to do Oprah? Did you get us tickets? I'm like, tickets? I didn't even know you needed tickets for Oprah, right? They were like, oh. So I called my communications guy. I say, Marty, look, you need to get me some tickets for Oprah. And Oprah does the worst thing possible. She gives me 7 tickets. Now, see, if Oprah gives me 2 tickets, everybody understands that's my mother and my wife. You can't go. But everybody in your family thinks they're in the top 7, right? They're all talking about, we going to Oprah. I'm like, no, you not, right? I must admit that we got more mail and response from Oprah than we've done really with almost anything else we've done. And so you're probably saying, so why do you want to do all this stuff? I mean, what is it that you want to say to this country? And it's pretty straightforward. I think if we continue to treat our children the way we have been in America, there is no way that our country can remain the leading superpower in the world. I just don't see it as possible. And if you love this country, I mean for real, if you really love America and you think it's a wonderful place, you have to worry about our future based on the way we treat our children. I'm one of those people that happens to believe our children are the future. You know, I hear people say that all the time, the children are the future, the children are the future. I'm not saying it as a slogan. I really mean it. I really mean if we don't educate our children, they will not be able to compete successfully with other children around the world. The world has changed. We no longer live in a world where our education leads the world. As a matter of fact, we're not number 1, nor number 2, nor number 3, nor number 4. In many cases, we're not even in the top 10. See, globalization is real. Our children are competing against children from all over the world. And we thought, you know, originally in the 70s, people thought globalization meant we were going to send our factory jobs overseas, blue-collar workers. People never thought we'd be talking about white-collar jobs. We'd be talking about technology, that we would be competing on every single level, and for every American child who's receiving a decent education over here, there are 7 in India, probably 15 in China, that we are being outworked by the rest of the world. You think I'm kidding? Go to any major university, look in their PhD programs in science and math, and see how many Americans you can find. You won't find many. You won't find many. Can't do the work. Can't reach the standards. I'm not talking about anybody. I'm talking about Americans. I'm talking about black Americans. I'm talking about American children. And so if you see that and you say, let's see, that's America in general. And if we know the demographics of this country suggest that the minority populations will be the majority in a very short time, right? I mean, you know, that's real. Those aren't my numbers. Those are just the numbers. 20 years. And then you say, so how are we preparing that next generation for leadership? Well, you know, I'm on the board of the Children's Defense Fund, and we put out a manifesto called the Cradle to Prison Pipeline. Because in many communities in this country, that's what we've created. See, we've got some places they're going cradle to college, but there are some places this pipeline goes from cradle to prison. Now, when we did our pipeline, we published that when we put this information out, there were 580,000 black males in serving sentences in state or federal prisons, not local, state or federal, while there were fewer than 40,000 black males earned a bachelor's degree. So let's see, 580,000 in jails, 40,000 earning a bachelor's degree. Math doesn't compute for me. If you're going to save this country, if we're going to save our children, why do we have policies where we end up with so many of our children ending up in jails and prisons? Now, if you want to know what's wrong with the way, and this is not personal to Detroit or any other place, it's just America. We have a problem in America. Now, you can see it clearest in some places, like Detroit, Camden, Harlem. You can see it, but this problem is all over America. If you want to see what our problem is, I used to, and I don't have it anymore, I used to have a piece of newsprint from the New York Times, and the heading was, Rhode Island Furor over prisons. And this what happened in Rhode Island. They had a budget deficit, and they realized that they needed to solve this deficit, and some wonderful bureaucrat looked at the data and realized they were spending $95,000 a year incarcerating children, but only spending, right, $45,000 a year incarcerating adults. And they said, well, why don't we change the age that we can incarcerate children, and that way we would have fewer $95,000 cost, and we can put those at $45,000 cost. And you know what? They passed the law and they did it. This is the state of Rhode Island I'm talking about. I'm not talking about some backwater place we've never heard of. This is the state of Rhode Island. You know what, there was not one conversation that if it's costing us $95,000 a year to lock up a child, why don't we figure out how to prevent those kids from ever going into those institutions? It never crossed their mind to think about that. So you have to understand, what kind of country would think about its children that way? So you know, they had to change the law. This is true. This is true. They had to change the law because if you take a child and you put him in an adult jail, you have to put that child in protective custody. It costs $110,000 a year to keep the child in protective custody. So they changed the law. They didn't change the law because it was immoral, and they changed it because it didn't save any money. So when you start thinking about the policies in this country and how we spend our money, there is not one place in America where it costs more to educate a child than to put them in prison. There is not one place that's even half the cost, not even half the cost. So we spend about $5,000 per child on the cost when we do our program. People around the country say, Jeff, wait a second, listen, that number's too big. You can't scale that number up. And I say, well, you can't scale that number. I say, no, you can, how many kids are we working with 10,000? Oh, you can't, that number doesn't scale. You can't go to the rest of America. I said, wait a second. I've been in many criminal courts where I've listened to the judge say, all right, Hakim, right? This is your second armed robbery. I told you we're not having that. We're going to give you 10 years. But let's see, we're spending $35,000 a year. That's $350,000. No, that's not scalable. We're going to let you go. Never heard it happen once. So here we have one part that's totally scalable, that no one ever says we can't lock up more people. Even though it costs us $35,000, $40,000 a year, we are willing to lock up as many people as we have. And yet, the other part where you're saving kids, they will not spend the $5,000 to save spending the $35,000 and $40,000. Something's wrong with that equation.